All right. Go ahead and tell me your name and you're looking at me. Don't look at the camera. Tell me your name and where you were born and what year.
Okay, now you're going to have to speak up louder.
Okay. Tell me your name, where you were born and what year.
My name is Walter K. Walton, or Walter Kenneth Walton. I was born in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. And the year I was born, 1935.
All right. Tell me how many people were in your family. Give me their names. Look this way. Look at me.
Look toward you?
Yeah, you're not looking at this. Don't even worry about the camera.
Okay, and in our family there was a total of 10, 2 died.
Names?
The names, there was 5 girls and 4 boys. And the names of the boys was Leo, Harry, myself, and Richard. The name of the girls was Gertrude, Naomi, Ruth May, Bertha, and Doris.
All right. Tell me what was it like growing up in Detroit?
It was nice when you don't have a whole lot of money or you don't know as much as you like to know. But other than that, survival is the whole thing. We had a grocery store, and my mother had an extra house where she rented it out, a 2-family flat. But other than that, you just go from day to day. You go to school. I used to shoot marbles a lot. But just go from day to day.
What was it like going to the grocery store in the neighborhood?
In the grocery store, it was nice, but everybody in the neighborhood owed us money. Yeah, down the street was a supermarket like A&P and Kroger's and all of them. And the people would go there when they get their checks, but they come to us when they wanted credit. Yeah, and that's when everybody in the neighborhood owed Walton the money. One time we closed the store up because they were saying my mother was too kind-hearted. So Leo was gonna run the store. Them ladies come in there and Leo, hey, go ahead, go ahead, let them have this, let them have that. They'd walk out there with $5 worth of groceries or whatever it may be, but go to Walton. Everybody in the neighborhood owed us money. You want to go to the movies, you go out there and collect some of the money. That's the only way you're going. And then we had paper routes. Everybody had a paper route.
I remember that you once told me that you wouldn't let me get a paper route. You wouldn't let me get a paper route.
No. I told you, don't get me no paper route. You want a paper route, talk to your mother. But don't get me no paper route. No. 6 o'clock in the morning, every morning. And now we used to collect the money, but now they fix it to where you mail your money in, for the newspaper or whatever it is. But no, that's 6 o'clock every morning, and if you didn't feel good, I had to deliver them. No. I had enough things going where at 6 o'clock in the morning I could be in my office, scheduling them in or whatever they may be, but nope, none of you had no paper route. In fact, it tickled me, the little cleaning job that granddad had, which your mother was doing. She'd get her money, but the people working for her wasn't getting no money. No, Kenneth Richards said, Dad, why Ma get the money and she ain't paying nobody? I said, you have to ask her. But that's when Pops wasn't pleased with the cleaning, so all of a sudden they had to get back on the stick. And she had to go with them to clean the bathrooms and all that. And after they got it straight, she would send him by himself, Kenneth Richard and Gregory. But when it was paycheck time, nope. She would get the money. And Kenneth Richard come asking me, Dad. I said, the best I can tell you is to be quiet and accept what you're doing, because you may be working and don't get no money.
How did you meet Gail Elaine?
Huh?
How did you meet Gail Elaine?
Oh, we all was growing up together to a certain extent. When I say certain extent, we knew in that neighborhood. And her friend James Horn used to go with her. And he was a trifling thing. I'd loan him my car to take Gail out. I'd loan him money to take Gail out. And yeah, and meanwhile, and he was working at General Motors. He was getting paychecks. Now, if you want a person that know everything, ask him. Biggest liar on 2 feet. Yes, he was. But he was my friend. And that's when you just learn to live with him. But after him and Gail broke up, that's when he come telling me, you can go talk to her. Now we don't go together. I say, well, yeah, I talked to her, but that ain't got nothing to do with you. And all of a sudden I'm looking up and she's taking me to the eye doctor. She was taking me to get my teeth fixed. And this is in the evenings. And I says, oh, but she was driving, and next thing I know, after I got my teeth in, then she felt that I look a little better. And I said, well, okay, we got to fooling around, so I gave her an engagement ring. And meanwhile, her parents was out of town in New York. And that's when my father-in-law said, well, you didn't get permission from me. And I said, well, I just have to get my rings back from her and start all over. And she said, no, you ain't getting these rings from me. But that led to us getting married, and we was living with them. And I was dying to get my own house. And finally I got my own house through my boss at the pawn shop. Yeah, he gave me the money, the down payment. He gave me money to fix it up. So after we moved in there, now we're doing work. Remodeling the bathroom, remodeling this, remodeling, and then we went and bought furniture. And we was buying furniture out of a paper they call the Shopping News. And this lady, white neighborhood, and beautiful, we bought, it was a chest of drawers, not drawers, what was it, the buffet, and there was a table with 8 chairs and a china cabinet, and it was about, and there was about 7 or 8 pieces. And then we turned around after the 7 or 8 pieces. Then we had put that in the dining room. Everything we bought in that house came from some family, the Hughes family. Our girlfriend had a baby set that they was getting rid of, and I got, the lady wanted $35, and I asked her, would she take 30? And she says, okay, $30, figuring she helping us. And Gail gets mad, why you gotta Jew them down all the time? That dining room set, I think we paid $135, but the lady wanted $190. We got it for $135. But the whole, even our bedroom set, everything in that house, we got it out of the shopping news. And that's how it went. We remodeling the kitchen. I'm remodeling the front porch. Because you walk out little tiny steps. And I had this friend of mine that was in the concrete work. And he put a nice big porch on it. Come out, you can go sit down. And but most of the stuff that was repaired in the house, it was friends of mine. We exchanged work. Because this one fella, Booker Rowley, he did mud work on the walls, drywall, and he did carpenter work. Well, he'd be remodeling these basements, and he needed electrical work done. So here comes Walton. Walton get over there, and okay, he ain't gonna have no money, even though he done gamble his money away. But hey, I do the electrical work, he gonna put some cabinets in the kitchen. Okay, whatever it was, we would always exchange work. This fellow that did my front porch, he had a basement he wanted done. I went over there and wired that basement up. But he was supposed to put the porch on. And that's when I started riding him. I said, no, you didn't have to ride me to get that electrical work done. But then I started buying houses. And when I left Detroit, I think I had 6 houses. And out of the 6, all was paid in full, except one. And that's when my boss would help me, because I was doing work in his houses. And he enjoyed that. I mean, any tools I needed in the pawn shop, go ahead and get them. And I said, okay. So all of a sudden we decided, I came out here, then Gail came out here, and Mr. Smith's brother had moved out here, Tom. And Tom was telling us about all these nice things about Colorado. And I got tired of 8 Mile Road, because every house I looked at, it needed new plumbing, it needed new this and new that. So I came out here looking, and they were doing construction work on Academy. And at that time, real estate was, I mean, cheap. A brand new house cost you $22,000. In fact, the one we moved in was $22,000. But and then I was doing all kind of electrical work. But I was always doing work for the white man. The black man, he was doing work right next to me, doing concrete work, doing anything other than electrical.
How did you transition? How did you learn electrical work? Weren't you working at the farm? How did you learn electrical work?
I started off doing electrical work when I was about 10 years old, going around changing switches and plugs in the relatives' house. And if they had a problem, I'd go over there, it might be a light bulb. It was always something minor. But, oh man, if you know you need any electrical, you get Walton. And I really didn't get involved in electrical until my boss. He buying these old houses, and he would reach a point where the electrical need done. And he tell me, you want to do it? And I said, yeah. Well, I was working in the evening and different ones, and it didn't bother me. But that's why I started doing electrical work. And I got so good, I was doing commercial work, restaurants and different ones. And this black fella who was an electrician in that area, he knew Walton was doing electrical work, because he knew that nobody else know how to do it. So he turned around and cornered me and told me, Walton, if you do any more work without a permit, he says, I'm going to write a letter to the board. And he did. He wrote that letter and told them all about me and told me that I ain't gonna never get my electrical license. So I went to college, and what was the name of the college? But anyway, I went for 2 years, and I learned enough about electrical. Now I'm going into the theory of it. All that, you ain't learning how to hook up stuff. You learning the theory of it, how it started, with all this. And after I got through with college, I knew enough to pass the electrical exam, but I didn't have enough time because you had to have 4 years. So my boss's nephews, they all had their own electrical business. And meanwhile, he told me, he said, why don't they help you, you know? And I talked to them, knew them all. And next thing you know, they wrote letters stating that I worked for them, which I did, on the weekends. And that's how I got involved in the electrical. Then I turned around and went downtown and passed my electrical exam. And next thing you know, I'm a licensed electrician. And this black fella, after he found out I had passed my exam, oh, now it's Mr. Walton. Prior to that, my name was Mud. And that's when he started getting me jobs, the electrical thing. Well, you can't be every place, but I stayed busy. And after that, they just knew I was going to leave the pawn shop because I got a license. You ain't going too far in a black neighborhood because most of the work was in the white neighborhood. And the white neighborhood, you go to work for them, that's when they use all those expressions, lightning, here come lightning, and here come, different names that they would call electricians. And I mean, back in Detroit, you didn't have no black electricians. And even the one that I was working with, it was always in the black neighborhood that he did work. And it was the same thing when I got it. Most of the work was a black neighborhood. And when I came through here visiting Colorado, that's when I say, shoot, they needed electricians. And they didn't have no black electricians either. And I got to working for this fellow, Rogers Electric. The fellow who I came out to work for, he was working for Rogers Electric. Yep, he had closed his business. And I said, his name was Dick Naylor. And I asked him, Naylor, why would you, and he was calling me every Sunday, Walton, when you coming? Walton, when you coming? And finally I says, okay, I'm on my way. And got out here and come to find out he done closed it down. So I went to Rogers Electric, and that's when they hired me. But they kept me in the background. Oh yes, you was wiring them apartment buildings on Nevada. There was always work where you ain't facing the public. Then he turned around and he had these white electricians, and they kept running into problems, and he said, see if Walton know. Walton go out there and fix the problem, and then I go back on my job. Well, these are licensed electricians. They didn't know, excuse the expression, they didn't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And I get out there and straighten the problem all out, and he said, where's Walton at? They say, he's on Nevada running conduit, running pipe. And I sit up there and he said, have him come in the shop. Now what do you want? Then he asked me, I got a small apartment building and a small job. You think you can handle it? I looked at him and I said, yeah. That's when I turned around and finally I got my master's license. And everybody in the shop just knew I was gonna leave Rogers Electric because now my license is just as strong as his. And he asking me, when you gonna leave? And when I leave, to go where? You know, well, you ain't gonna start your own business? No, I'm content right here. But my paycheck increased. And from that point on, I was getting respect and everything. And it tickled me, this one white fella, he said, you know, my mother taught me that I was smarter than any black man. He said, and she a lying bitch. His name was Tex Jules. And next thing you know, different ones, Roger, what's his name? Larry DeLay. Larry DeLay said, I'm not working nobody unless I'm working for Walton. Yeah, and next thing you know, the whole shop wanted to go to work with Walton because the housing, every time they had a problem, they would call Walton to go out there and straighten it out. I'd go out there and straighten it all out and everything running nice. And that's when he said, I can keep talking, but that's when he said, God dang it, Walton, I knew more than the foreman. And that's when I would have to go all out east. They doing houses out there and they can't figure this out. They can't figure this out. Well, get Walton out here. And it tickled me. Next thing you know, they get Walton. So I asked him, how am I supposed to finish my job if you keep telling me, get Walton, get Walton? We come in, the whole shop come in on a Thursday. And he done got like 3 different customers. They doing houses, but they done ran into a snag. So they called me, I'm out there working. I said, well, we coming in Thursday. We can take care of it then. And I had 2 apprentices. And those apprentices could do the job themselves. Yeah, they could repair that. So meanwhile, we come in and first thing before I sit down, gotta go on this one, you know. And it might be, they custom houses where they got the zone valves. And zone 1 is the master bedroom, zone 2 is this one, zone 3. And I didn't see where they could mess up. They did. So my apprentices, that's when I had Greg Masters and Tom Powers. They were my apprentices. And they said, well, first thing we need to do is take all that mess apart, which they did. And I said, Harold, let's just go on through the house. I like to see it. And left them 2 down there. And about 20 minutes later, they said, okay, we're ready. I said, well, they said, okay, let's click in zone 1. Clicked it in and the zone opened up just as nice. Okay, zone 2, everything worked. I says, okay, we can head on back to the shop because at the shop you had free beer. And that's when they say, we got to get back there before they drink all the beer up. And we walk in the back door and you look over there at him. He said, he get it straight, and he go like this and shake his head. He said, and they done went 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks trying to get that thing done. And meanwhile, they call Walton. Get his ass on over here, you know. I sit up there, and next thing you know, he was going broke. My boss I was working for. So he called and asked me, he said, Walton, you want to start your own business? I said, yeah. He says, okay, this lawyer had a medical building on Academy. And he said, well, the lawyer wants to know if you want that job. I says, I can do it. He says, okay, it's yours. I said, what? So the lawyer wanted a .22 rifle. That's the deal. So I said, well, I think I got one. That's when Roger says, yeah, he got a bunch of guns. Because I didn't want nobody to know it. And the first gun I gave him, it didn't shoot. And I said, well, I got another one. Gave him the second one, it shot good. Now I'm doing this my own business. So every time I go to a supply house, they thought I was getting it for Roger. And they didn't want to sell it to me. I said, well, I'll pay cash for it. And they said, Walton, you starting your own business? I said, yeah. You got your license, your master's? I said, yeah. Well, now I got to show them my master's. And next thing you know, I had one man working, then two, then three. When I closed my business down, I had 20-something people working. And I was happy, I was proud getting government contracts. Oh, government contracts galore. And no static, that paycheck was right there. But what they say, and life goes on.
What was it? You were the first black electrician to get their master's in Colorado? Mm-hmm. How'd that happen?
Well, what happened was I was supposed to have been taking my journeyman's license. But because when I moved from Michigan, and I had my application all filled out, but I showed each license when I renewed it. And they looked at it and they said, well, he was a journeyman licensed electrician back in Michigan. So we can go ahead and give it to him, let him take the exam. And I went up to Denver to take the exam, and at first they said, oh no. They looked at my papers, they said, well, go ahead, let him take it. Now, here's a catch. When you take your exam, you don't put your name no place. You put the number of your receipt where you paid, and that goes on your exam. And they says, okay, we'll let you know in 3 weeks. And I said, okay. And there was 580 white boys in there. And I was the only black. Took the exam. I don't think I got home good. Roger tell me, he said, Walton, you know you passed the exam. I said, no, you lying. But I did, I had an 87. And I found out that he knew people who would give the exam. And all them people, they kept my exam, you know, don't mix it with that one, don't mix it with that one. And that's when he told me I passed and got my master's. And that's all I needed. I took my master's and went down to the insurance company and took over that job, the medical building. And from that point on, I was going up the hill. But I don't know why my wife, she couldn't stand it. And I was making money. She worried about, oh, well, we were going to get some money next week. I said, I can give you next week's money right now. But now you want to know 2 weeks in the exam and 3 weeks. And it was just one thing after another. She couldn't stand it. And wait, when I moved my shop downtown to the little houses, she came down there and looked, and that was as far as she wanted to see. I asked her to come down there, secretary. Nope. She worked 1 week just to find out the functions of that business and where the paycheck was at. That's all she wanted to know. But no, she came down there after about, maybe a month later, wrote her a check out for $2,000. And that's when the secretary and them told me Gail was in there and wrote a check. I said, I'll take care of it. So I called the bank and stopped payment on the check. But no, she felt she can come in there and write checks. And no, you ain't gonna do that here. She was writing checks. The first check she wrote was for my oldest son, Kenneth Richard. And she got mad. You paying him that much money? I said, just write the check, you know. She got mad behind that, and he don't know nothing. I said, but no, I had him over there. He was learning, but he had an attitude too. He really didn't want to do electrical work. And I'm telling him, I says, all right, you got to do something. You ain't going to stand in the middle of the road. But he helped to get that job done. That was a government contract.
So,
But I got out the union. No, I was in the union because I had so many jobs going. But looked like the union hall was sending me deadbeats. And I mean, they standing around smoking and different things. And one guy, he got mad and he said, I'm going to the shop. I said, you don't want to finish the day out? No. I says, okay, you can stop and pick up your check. I said, and the next day the union hall called me. Walton, the fellow that left there, can you write down because of short of work? I said, no, I'm not doing a damn thing because your union sent that man out there. Come to find out he was the secretary. But they sent him out there to find out how many jobs Walton got. Spying on me. And I said, no. When I got out the union, and I told all of them, they can go to purgatory. But no, the union, if it's ran properly, because my son, Kenneth Richard, they were sending him to jobs, and the guys was getting mad because they enjoyed his work. But they didn't have control of Kenneth Richard. And they'd send him back over to this job, and then the next job. So that's when me and Kenneth Richard had a long talk. And he was wanting to get out the union. And that's where he was working at right now. I said, if you measure your paycheck, right now I'm paying you $18 an hour, but you're not getting 18 because the union is getting health and welfare and all these things. And it boiled down to where he was getting about $13 an hour. I says, okay, the place where you're working at, or want you to go to work, and they're going to start you off at $9. But in 90 days, he got a raise. I said, and getting a raise up to $12. I would go ahead and go in the union. Can I? Okay, but.
tell me what.
Huh?
Tell me what Uncle Richard's like.
I didn't hear you.
Uncle Richard, give me his personality. What was he like growing up with?
Richard, Uncle Richard, Harry, that was Harry's boy. See, we didn't have a dad. And Harry took Richard under his wing. And everything that Harry bought Richard a brand new bicycle. And because he wore his out delivering shopping news. But anything that Richard wanted, because Harry would put Richard in the track meets at Mumford High School. And Richard was running track and all that. And next thing you know, they up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, all three of us slept in the same bedroom, see. And it was 6 o'clock in the morning. They get mad at me because I didn't want to go. Nope, I ain't going, y'all go. So they go out there and run around the track and all that and participating in races and all that. And he taught Richard how to run and what to do. And Richard he was coming home with trophies. And he turned around and, what was it? Harry had to go into service, but Richard wasn't old enough then to get his driver's license. But I had my driver's license at the age of 14 because I had to drive my mother anywhere she wanted to go. And they tickled me. I had to have my mother in the car whenever I go. So when I turned 16, I had to drop my mother off at home and then drive around the park, the baseball diamond and all that to show, hey. But other than that, Richard went in the military. It tickled me. My mother would tell me about Richard. But Richard, he was pretty quiet. Everybody stayed out of trouble, except me. I was done the person, I was in the police car and down to the police station, and I spent a week in jail. That's right. What was it? Possession of stolen merchandise. And at that time, that white detective, he wanted my boss to fire me at the pawn shop, which he didn't. But everything that policeman wanted them to do, they didn't. They said, no, you out here to mess up everybody. That's what they told the white policeman. Because he wanted me to get fired and all this and all that. And even down at the police station, the lawyer I had, Jewish lawyer, he says, I don't even know why they got you down there. He said, you ain't never did nothing. I said, well, what you gonna do? You just follow the thing. This is why I say whenever I see the police, I go the other way. And I don't want no talking about, hey, you look familiar. Next thing you know, they got you in the lineup. And from the lineup, well, she picked him. Now you were going to jail, and other than that, life was confusing, but you learned to survive.
How did your mom survive? You said you didn't have a dad. How was it on your mom?
Oh, my mother took care of all of us. And the minute, like Leo, he was working at Ford Motor Company. He graduated from high school and got a job at Ford Motor Company, and then he was helping my mother. And then when Harry graduated, he got a job at Ford Motor Company, and he was helping my mother. And then they got mad at me because I didn't get no job at Ford Motor Company. I says, Ford Motor Company ain't got nothing out there for me. And I was taking Harry to work like, maybe twice a week if I wanted to use his car to go roller skating. So I had to take him to work, and I had to make sure that I be there to pick him up. Yeah, because we could be going roller skating. But no, that's when I got my car, and my mother was helping me to put a radiator in. Yeah, you should have seen us out there working. And then from that car, Harry sold me his old car. And then he wanted me to get another. No, I'm not getting in debt. I'm not getting in debt. I had this nice little Ford stick shift with the Continental kit on the back, and clean as can be. Because Harry kept all his vehicles clean. And that's the only way we could use his vehicle, is that we clean it. But other than that, it was nice. I ain't gonna say life was bad. You just learn to work with what you got.
What were some of your favorite things doing growing up? What were some of your favorite things to do? Like roller skating, playing pool?
Oh, well, you had to be a certain age to get in the pool hall. So I couldn't do that until we was 18. And as far as delivering papers, I made money delivering papers, but that didn't say you like it. And then you had to work in the grocery store, which you didn't like because you wasn't getting paid. But no, many of the jobs as I had working, cleaning that backyard, cleaning that back porch, but you wasn't getting paid. But that's when I started working at the pawn shop, and I was 13 then, and I first started off working free. Because my neighbor, Henry Hirsch, was the one that was down there working. And I'd be down there talking to Henry, and that's when I learned to pick up the stuff and all these things. And all of a sudden they said, well, where's Walton at? He's next door shooting pool. And he said, well, why ain't he in here? And that's when my boss told me he ain't not on the payroll. So he can be where he want to be. So that's when they turned around and put me on the payroll. That's the control, you see. But other than that, I stayed sick all the time. With my asthma, oh Lord. I failed one class the whole semester because I missed it because of my asthma. And then they used to think that I was just skipping school. They came by the house there, doctors and all. And I was right there in the living room watching TV. And that's when they found out with the asthma. But as you get older, you get a little wiser because in Detroit, our house had cats and dogs and all these things I was allergic to. And we had steam heat, radiators going on and off. That made you sick. And the house was always dusty because we had lived right there on 8 Mile Road and the cars going by. But no, you just learn to live with the asthma until we moved out here and everything started clearing up. But it's hard to work when you're sick.
So tell me about each one of your children's personalities. Tell me about Kenneth's personality. And then
About each one of them personality?
Yeah.
Now how would you know that I know something like that?
I don't know.
Well, Kenneth Richards' personality was totally different from Gregory's, which Gregory was totally different from Matthew. And then came Christian. And Christian's personality was different too. But you learn to live with each one's personality. You don't try and use the old one for this one and this and that. Each one was different. And it's just like the electrical going out working. Hey, they love the money, but the work, no. But that's like Kenneth Richards with the government job. I'm paying him every week. And I'm asking him, are you learning anything? Well, the foreman on the job there, Greg Masters, he said he ain't learning nothing. He don't want to learn. And he wasn't. And I said, well, what good are you? Because he did live in Denver. And he could get to the job, open it up, open the trailers up and everything. But when he got in the union, that's when he started doing electrical work. That's when I see he wouldn't do that for me. But in the union, you're going to do some electrical work. And he was proud telling me about, naming different things that he was doing, you know. And I said, it seemed like you like it. He said, yeah, it's different, Dad. I say, the paycheck ain't different. But no, then came Gregory. None of them looked like they wanted to do electrical work. But I did things to encourage it when I bought them pouches, see. Electric pouches, you got your own pouch and this and that motivated them a lot, see. And all these jobs that we went on, they were nice, clean jobs, and everybody motivating them. Oh, yeah, you got your kids out here walking, and then I say, yeah, they got to learn. But that's when they say, man, ain't too many black electricians out here, which you wasn't. And they learning that stuff too. And I said, well, I'm hoping they learn it. But those are some of the things that motivated them, is other people saying, yeah, encouraging them. But other than that, then my daughter got mad with me. She said, well, why weren't you teaching me? And I said, Kristen, I would have taught you, but your mother got into the picture. She didn't want you doing no electrical, no nothing. And yet still the electrical was bringing money home. She couldn't understand that. I said, so you want me to go get a job with a shovel? Now, she ain't punching the clock no place. And I sit up there, and that's when Kenneth Richards started doing electrical work. He was in college, and she said, yeah, the only thing he studied in college was Colette. But when it came to doing electrical, no, they loved the money, though.
So what's Gregory all about?
Gregory?
Was he free spirit?
Gregory was free spirit, but it tickled me. Gregory, well, he wasn't no bad person. But we had to go to school on him too. And not just like Gregory in college right now. And Gregory knows that I know. But his mother got mad talking about why you didn't tell her. I said, I told you, but you ain't ignoring me. I told her Gregory ain't gonna graduate. She said, why? I said, because Gregory got to take one class that he refused to do it. So they held his diploma. I said, and to this day, Gregory went back to school to take that one class. And I said, so you leave him alone. I was giving him money to go. When they moved to California, him and Jay, I was sending him money, and my ex was sending him money. And then she jumped on my head. Well, why can't you send him some money? I say, he's working every day. You should have seen me and Kristen went out there to drive them back. And Gregory we got to the airport at 1 o'clock. Gregory didn't pick us up until 4:30. So we was in the airport, he couldn't get off from work. And he was working for this electrical shop. And me and Kristen got to the hotel where they were staying at, the apartment. But no, I look at Gray and Jay, and I said, y'all throw away more money, and God knows what. And they did too. Both of them was working. And I said, Gregory, I don't care where you go. If you control your money like you're doing, you ain't gonna get very far. But they moved him back here to Colorado. And that's when he went to work for Walton Electric. And I said, oh, are you learning anything? Learning how to make money, that's all. But he loved electrical, and all the people that they worked for, they loved it because they had their own car, they had their own tools. He said, and that's half the battle. When you come to work for this shop, hey, you got your own car? Yeah. What about your tools? Yeah. You mean you got tools? Yeah. Pouch and everything. Oh, that inspired them. Now they want to find out if they know anything. But I said, every job they got, the people wanted them to stay.
So tell me about Matthew.
Matthew, he was totally different. Matthew. I don't know about Matthew. It tickled me various things that happened in Matthew. They going bowling. This is on a Saturday morning. And Matthew went in the house because he was supposed to put some oil on his head. And he came back with the whole can of oil. And his mother told him, you go on back there with your dad. And at that time, I was putting a sprinkler system in. And I let Matthew loose down in that pit. And when I came back, he didn't have it like I had it, but he had it better. And everything was working. The pipes were soldered and everything. And that's when Matthew got a job for a company putting in sprinkler systems. And all of a sudden they had a man that come through there to do the hookups for them. And Matthew said when he hooked him up and the guy looked at him and everything was working, and he said, Matthew, he said, oh yeah, that's right, your dad got an electrical shop. But I say he got rid of that man, and next thing you know, and Matthew had transportation. Because he sure had my truck loaded down with sprinkler stuff. And he pulled in the backyard, and I said, whoa, what is this? And I said, and that's when we took the sprinklers and started experimenting with them. We had them things going all over the yard, the neighbor's yard, and everything. And your mother, she's getting mad. Y'all just burning that water up. I said, here we go again. But wasn't ain't no wind, the wind. It was a no-win situation. Damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Tell me about the UPS store. The UPS conveyor belt.
Wait, the UP?
The conveyor belt story.
Oh, that was a service call that came in about 8 or 9 o'clock that night. And it tickled me. I don't like going on service calls by myself. Well, I woke up Matthew, and we went to this UPS, and there was 2 other companies that had been there, but the conveyor belt had stopped. And they were so worried, oh Lord, they got stuff coming in from Denver and everywhere. And the 2 electrical shops that were there prior to that, they couldn't get nothing going. And then there was 2 shops there.
So go ahead and finish that story real quick.
Okay, no, we went on this service call, and this was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And meanwhile, they had the other electrical shops there, and nobody could get it going. So Matthew floating all around the place, and he happened to hit this switch, and the conveyor belt started moving. So he stopped and came and told me, Dad, look at what this doing. So he showed it to me, went over there, hit the switch, and the conveyor belt started. So I said, okay, turn it off, turn it off. We went and got the owner who was there. I said, I think we found the problem. And he says, what? I said, okay, Matthew, go ahead and hit it. And Matthew hit the switch, and the conveyor belt started moving and everything. And oh, he was so happy. And that's when they had 2 or 3 other electrical shops in the office waiting for the blueprints to come from Denver. And these blueprints would show the whole building. And I told him, I said, you got everything working now. He said, you Walton? He said, come by tomorrow and I'll have a check for you. I said, okay, but he told me he gonna call me, but I had other shops working, other jobs. But we got the conveyor belt going. Your mother, she got mad because I had Matthew out there on service calls. I had Gregory out there on service calls. Kenneth Richard, he didn't go too much for it, but anyway, I had him out there. But no, I made connections with the power company. And anytime they had problems, they said, well, call Walton. Call Walton. I had the telephone company. Call Walton. I was wiring up the telephone booths, and we was up there in the main building. And we taking our lunch because you can't go in and out. And I don't know if it was Matthew or Gregory put an egg in the microwave and blew that thing up. I says, oh Lord, here we go again.
So tell me your favorite Kenneth and Gregory story. Tell me your favorite Kenneth and Gregory story.
Kenneth, Richard, and Gregory's
your favorite story.
Matthew, I have to start thinking now.
What's your favorite Kristen story?
Huh?
What's your favorite Kristen story?
My Christmas story? Kristen? I don't know, but I had her working. and she was asking me because she was holding the light fixtures up on her feet, didn't need no ladder. And she mad, Dad, why couldn't you bring me on these jobs? I said, because your mother didn't want you. I said, I was going to bring you here, bring you there, even in college. For the summer, I could have work. And I didn't know she was working with companies up in Denver. I said, but no, your mother. See, I done got that thing all hard up from our conversations.
Exactly.
But I said, no, every time I mention Kristen, you ain't taking her out there. You ain't doing this. I say, why can't she learn? She can learn what's at the house. I said, okay. Then I wanted to take your mother out there. Now that was the job. Whoa. She wasn't about to go, didn't want to go, but she wanted that money.
So,
Oh yes. On a service call?
are you proud of your kids?
Oh yes, I ain't gonna tell them that, but yes, I'm very proud of them. Other people be reminding me. I said, so? I said, you proud of them? Walton, you should be proud of your kids. I says, well, it goes with the trend. It goes with the trend. And now, would I do it all over again? Yes. Yes. I enjoy my kids. I enjoy getting home and what kind of confusion we got today. I remember setting up the checkerboard, and Matthew came down, seen the checkerboard, and turned around and went right on back upstairs. He didn't want no parts of that checkerboard and me. I said, but all I was doing was teaching him. I said, I have played chess with Dallas, Matthew's son. I says, and both of us, he was learning. I said, he would make a move and come back, go do this and do that. Now he got to look at the board. I said, but once he could go and do this and do that and come back and know what the board is on, I said, it's time to stop. He knew just what he was doing. I said, but you teach him a little bit and you back off. You teach him a little bit and you back off. I said, yeah, they come down, we're going on Saturdays working, Sundays working. It didn't make no difference, we were making some money.
Okay.
Huh?
What's one of your favorite sayings about work? Because you're still getting asked to work.
My favorite things about work.
Work will be here.
Oh, work won't be here when we dead. Oh, yes. Even though we enjoyed it. Now here come Gregory, we're gonna work Sunday. I'm telling Gregory he gonna go to the rental shop and rent all these movies. I said, Gregory, when you gonna have time to look at them? That's like I had you and Dante over Jane Freeman's house working. I said, yeah, go to so, but I was paying for it. I said, no, from now on, Matthew, bring your lunch. Gregory, bring your lunch. I said, there was lunch meat there. Your mother would buy a package of lunch meat. I said, but no, but they knew what they was doing. That's when what's his name? He's dead now, but you came over to the bowling alley. I told you to wire that room up at number 12 wire, and he wired it up at number 14. And the next day he was there at 6 in the morning. You know, I'm trying to think of his name, but to straighten it out, you know. I say, oh, it had its ups and downs, but when they learn, and they found out that the rest of them learning, and all of a sudden all the playing gone. Yeah, he wired the room up at number 14, and Matthew said, Dad, didn't you tell him to wire it up in number 12, which was a bigger wire? And I said, yeah. And he looked, what was his name, Matthew?
I can't remember. I know it wasn't Leroy was.
But his friend killed him. He was out there playing with a knife. And his wife, oh Lord, Matthew. She would sit up there in the office waiting for her husband to come, and she would drink a 6-pack of beer. She would put a 6-pack down in no time flat. That's when I said, what was his name? I said, you got to buy some beer for your wife. Because she be drinking, and where's Matthew? Where's Matthew? I'd say, Matthew done got him another girlfriend. I think your son is so nice looking, and he's so pretty. Then I said, well, he got to work too. They got to get up in the morning like everybody else. But all in all, it was fun. Would I do it again? Yes, in a heartbeat. And I can't understand, they never brought the drugs up, you know. And nobody in the house smoked either. I say, nah, they knew that they stayed out of trouble. If they didn't, I didn't know about it.
Didn't want that meat hook of your wife.
But all in all, it was just another day to get out. Let's turn that thing off now.
Oh, we good.